Okay. So welcome officially to meeting number 2, our night eating meeting, our second coaching meeting. Hello, hello. I have a feeling, how many of you, this is your very first coaching meeting, ever since you started the live fall 2025 shift? Put a 1 in chat if this is your very first one so that we can welcome you, and welcome back everybody who's been to some of our other meetings. Welcome, Dawn. Yeah, so and just to reiterate about our meetings, we will have one per week. Next week, it's going to be Wednesday at 4 p.m. because I am going to go see Tony Robbins Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm so excited. It's like going to see Elvis live because I feel like it's, I want to see the king before he gets too old, right? So I will very first live welcome Dawn, and welcome Deborah. It's nice to see you all. So um, we are going to dive into it because we have got a lot to cover today. But I want to say congratulations to all of you. You have now fully completed, or at least we have completed part 1. So congratulations, you've started the journey. And now we officially opened part 2, which is the 9 skills. Some of you guys asked about that in our questions. We are beginning to dive into the 9 skills of weight mastery. This is my favorite section, so I hope you really are looking forward to that. And we're going to really be working on building those really essential foundational skills of weight mastery. So we've got a lot of uh, really great lessons, great hypnosis sessions. As you probably noticed, there's a new morning meditation today. So all of these things are kind of rolling out. And I want to acknowledge all of you. I want to acknowledge all of you for being an awesome group. Once you say coaches, we've been talking about how this group is just very mindful and thoughtful and asks lots of great questions, and that I don't see a lot of like what I would call sort of, woe is me attitudes, but more like I really want to learn and I really want to figure this out for myself, and I'm here to learn and be an apprentice. So I think I just want to say we love you guys. So congratulations on, I think this has just been a really great group energy. What do you guys think so far? Put a 2 in chat if you're feeling the vibe from the group, the power of the group. Yeah, it is so important, these group experiences. And even if you aren't in the Facebook group, coming to these or even listening to these coaching meetings, you're hearing things from other people, and that just does something to the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind wants to level up to the level that you'll hear coaches speaking today. Your subconscious mind will hear that, and it will start making connections because they're modeling the behavior of going through the shift and making these connections and changes. And your brain hears that, and you might not consciously get that, but your subconscious mind is taking it all in. So that's what I feel like is very powerful about this. So let's dive into the curriculum today, and uh, let's have a great meeting. I am just going to um, here, hold on just a minute. No, I don't want to. Okay, I'm gonna. Sorry, you guys. I had a conversation with my team this morning about AI. We're, implementing AI in a lot of just not in a lot of, but in the background of things. And, and I'm like, I haven't even mastered Zoom yet. How can I start going into AI? It's like, I don't know. Stop the world. I want to get off. Okay, so welcome to office hours. Turn off your video if you are going to be distracting. Use chat if you want to ask questions. Our coaches will do their best to answer questions, or they'll alert me to the fact that there are questions being asked. But we are going to have a huge Q&A at the end of this, and I will do my best to stay on as long as I can to respond. There will not be hypnosis in this meeting today. None of our coaching sessions have hypnosis because we spend most of our time at the end. And I feel like you guys are all getting enough hypnosis as it is on a daily basis. So you're all good there. I want to remind you, we do have our Carb Savvy workshop coming up on Saturday. I hope you guys can make it live, but if you can't, know that it will be recorded, as all of our meetings are. I think a lot of the questions, a lot of you asked about eating and integrating and macros and all that will be really taken care of in the Carb Savvy workshop. The Carb Savvy workshop is our next iteration into figuring out how to feed yourself in a masterful way that allows you to turn down the food noise and stay focused, get yourself back on track. If you get get off track, a lot of valuable tools and insights are going to be given during that workshop. So even if you can't make it, I hope you'll take the time. It will be about a 3-hour workshop and maybe even a little longer. So if for all of you who are, feeling the impact of all of this information coming your way, I just want to kind of cover a couple of things. First of all, it's the overwhelm feeling is normal. And like I said, your brain is growing. You do not have to listen to everything now. It's going to be in your bonus section, like as far as the extra meetings are concerned. I would say if you were going to listen to one thing after this week, I would say it would be Carb Savvy. Why? Because we are going to be giving you that next level information as far as feeding yourself and making it work out for you. I don't know, coaches, does anyone feel differently, or would you say that, of all the meetings you attended when you did your shift, probably the Carb Savvy, just because it was just another layer of information, was probably the most valuable? Any of you
Yeah,
coaches?
completely agree. It's taught me how to stabilize myself for when I do want to indulge in a treat.
Yeah,
I learned a lot from the Carb Savvy. I recommend everybody attend or listen.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think it's just it's the next level. Like I've said already, it's the next level. So please do try to come. Okay. So we are going to do some coaching on where you are right now in the process. And because where you are right now is a very interesting and still vulnerable place to be. Then we are going to get into looking at night eating. And as Deanne, one of our coaches, said, I thought night eating was just when you wake up in the middle of the night, but it can take all different forms. It can be that snacking after dinner. It could be even before dinner eating. It's just that anything after 5 o'clock, eating patterns after 5 are what we would consider a night eating pattern. And then we're going to answer your questions, and there are a lot of them. So let's, and then we are, if you have, look at how I spelled coaches. If you do have questions, the coaches know so much. Please just, you can ask in chat, they'll answer, or they'll say that's a question for Rita, and then we can refer later. I do want to thank our coaches who have volunteered to be here today. Lynn, Laura, Mary, Deanne, and Cherie are here, and I can't thank them enough for being here. We had a couple of coaches having to drop out because of, one fell and one had a father-in-law who fell. So please work on your mobility and your stabilization of your core, because the falling thing is just a recurring theme. So share a win. So take a moment, take a breath, and I want you to think about a win that you have had so far during the process. Just given the fact this is something that we do all the time, and we do it in our continuing membership, any meeting we have, I say, think of what's been going on and think of something powerful or positive that has happened to you. It does not need to be weight oriented. It can be that you exercised for the first time in a long time. It could be that you found a new food that you really love. But why we do this is the brain is negativity biased. And haven't you noticed that even though you're making progress, your brain is like, yeah, but it's probably not good enough. You could be faster, better at this. So we want to take a moment to pause and reflect and reinforce what is going well. Started swim lessons, tracking every morsel, sensing into my hunger at dinner and stopping, then removing my plate and putting it in the fridge. Oh, wow, that's cool. Discovered a triggering dark chocolate treat. Uh, let's see. Constant thoughts of nibbling have stopped. My brain is quieted and calmed. Awesome, Chris. Wade every day. Jessica, good one. Great scientist work. My family ordered my favorite pizza for dinner last night. I had the calories to eat a slice, but actually preferred eating chicken. That's never happened before. Wow. Yeah, a lot as you start eating differently and start tuning into your food, you start to notice that some of those things that you thought were like, oh my God, I can't, that's my favorite. You're like, it's sometimes not. Sometimes they're still your favorite and the most amazing food that you're ever going to eat. But a lot of times, um, we make those discoveries. Realizing my brain has changed when it comes to food, not needing to finish my plate, planning in advance, 10 pounds down on day 54. Great, Jazzy. Sleeping better. Fantastic. That's always a great secondary gain. Found out that I can really eat less food and be satisfied. Always thought I needed more than I do. Isn't that interesting? A lot of people discover that. It's when we start tuning in and really putting the pieces of the puzzle together, we get a whole new perception of ourselves and what we really need to be satisfied. It's one of the really great things, especially in the beginning, where you're just like, I'm not actually who I thought I was. And it's how our brain kind of holds us in this negative space. So when you break out of that and you get a renewed sense of yourself, it really is kind of like a love story with yourself. This process can afford that. I mean, and of course, the inner critic is going to always come in and have something to say. But I encourage you all to keep looking at what's going well for you, just to keep reinforcing, right? Your brain is always going to say, well, you could be doing this better. You haven't done this. You're behind on that, but keep looking at what's going well, and not from a I'm being good perspective, because I think that then puts us into that old dieter mindset, but more like, oh, I'm acknowledging something that's working well for me. Let me observe this and sort of take that on. Because good kind of whitewashes everything. But if we say, oh, I'm noticing, or oh, I'm seeing that we kind of get a different frame on things than I'm being good. So hope that has helped you guys in the same way. So we have, as I said, finished the start the journey. So congratulations. And if you are behind, that's okay. You will, either catch up or be just a few days behind us. That doesn't mean you're not working along with us. It just means, there's, if we were all going on a hike on the Santiago Trail, there'd be people in the front and people behind, but we're all on the trail together. We're all on the path together. So don't fret, don't feel anxious. We're all moving along the same course. And yeah, and now we're heading into the 9 skills. So I want to share my favorite quote with you for at least this part of the process, especially as you guys are awakening, getting mindful, tuning in, is between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in that response, lies our growth and our freedom. And that goes a long way to reinforce the idea of the shift breath, taking that mindful moment, breathing, and going, oh, this was the old way I did this. I have an opportunity to dive into the new way. So I'm going to read that again. Between the stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response, taking that shift breath. Okay, I do have a choice and I choose to. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So this is so much of what you are doing right now is you're taking that, either that breath or that awareness. Even the data collecting is causing that pause. Many of you said in the community that you were surprised that tracking actually gives you that moment to go, do I really want to put this in here? Do I really want to make that choice? So a lot of this inner communication is going on, and we're in ways slowing it down, but also opening it up. And so that's something we call flooding, where there's just so much going on in your brain at the moment. But I assure you, it will all settle down as time goes on. But it can feel overwhelming at times. Just breathe through it and know that it's a natural part of the response. Okay. So now I just want to give you a little coaching about, I'm just going to move some things around here. Hold on just a second. If I can. Here, let me see this. Let me move everybody's lovely faces down here. Okay. So I want to open up an idea. And you don't have to take this on, but I'm inviting you to take this on. Is to start to create, remember when we did, and some of you I know weren't in our orientation meeting, but something that we did, but you did the vision work, and you know how we do the vision work. We talk about that, not only 30 days from now, but at our ideal weight, and then five years down the road, long-term mastery. And I want you to start to get curious about that long-term mastery person. And for right now, like start to say, me 5 years down there, what is she doing? How would she respond in this situation? Because we are bringing in that inner coach, like that part of us ultimately does become a large piece of our inner coach. Asking what would my ideal weight me choose to eat in this situation? And just by asking that question, you're just getting your brain to open up and work in a different way. So we aren't in that stimulus response, but we're saying, wait a minute, 5 years from now, at that me who has been maintaining my weight for a while, they're going to be interacting differently in this situation. What would that look like? And you don't need to respond as you would, but you're just opening up that. Does that make sense, you guys? To want to make sure that this is resonating. How would my ideal weight me feel about getting up in the morning? So much of my initial shift was asking these questions because I'd never in my life had a vision of myself a long term down the road. Never, ever. It was always like, oh, I want to get thin and I want to be like this. But I didn't think about the me, the real Rita living her life 5 years down the road. And when I really got into the idea of me being there, it completely opened up my mind to curiosity and questions and ideas and realizations. Like, I'm probably going to have a number of conversations with my husband. I probably won't have just one. I'm probably going to have many. And I might even have to have conversations with him 5 years from now, which I do 30 years from now. And you know what I mean? And the me exercising 5 years from now. What's my opinion about exercise? It might be, the me who is a couch potato was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to have like a low level idea of exercise. I'm going to probably be into it. Okay, well, how does that happen? Maybe I better find a way of exercising that I really love instead of feeling like, I just got to do this thing and I'm just going to burn calories and make it a chore. It's just like, what would I be willing to do long term? Like, and you might not have the answers right now. This is how this is different from a diet that says, do this, do that. But it's just opening up your brain to go, because everybody here and all the coaches here have asked those questions. And if I asked all 5 of our coaches who are here today to be speaking with you, and Laura, I'm going to have you speak about this in a moment, is like, everybody has different ways they like to exercise, different ways they like to eat. We're all different. So that's why it's important to turn on that inner mechanism that is individual to you, and to start to open up this intimate relationship with that future you, that it's kind of like a resource like ChatGPT. You're like, well, I'm going to ask you a question and I might not get that answer right away, but I want to start to gestate on it. And the answers will come because your subconscious mind is always working below your consciousness. You might, be doing your chores or, dealing with work or doing something, but your subconscious is working on that question. And I've always been amazed by my subconscious mind when I ask it questions. And I know I'm not going to get the answer in that moment, but then it will come as an epiphany. It will be like, oh, okay, yes. Now I can eat that food or be open to that idea of exercise. It doesn't always come. And I think us as dieters, we're very into like, I need to know now, I need to feel safe. I need to know that I'm doing it, being good and being the right thing, doing the right thing rather than this is my journey and this is where I'm going. And what does, that look like right now and to ask myself those questions. So I hope this makes sense because the questions are what engage your mind and the mind that got you where you are today, prior to starting to shift is not the mind that's going to get you 5 years down the road maintaining your ideal weight. I want to remind everybody that this is a long-term permanent weight mastery course. It isn't lose weight fast course. This is we are training your brain. And part of that is you taking the responsibility for who you are becoming. And that's why I, get into the community and I say, like come and ask questions and be curious. Even with the challenges, because we just want your brain going in that direction, if that makes sense. Okay, cool. Laura, um, maybe tell us a little bit about you and I'm going to stop the share so we can see your pretty self.
Okay, well, thank you. Hello, everybody. I am Laura, and I'm 62 years old. Hello, fellow Nebraskan or Nebraskans, if there's more of you out there, coming to you from Omaha. My weight loss struggle has been a 40-year story, very similar to so many yo-yoing, binging, that type of thing. But for my 20s and my 30s, my purpose of losing or releasing weight. In fact, it was losing it then because I always found it. Losing weight was purely physical. It was looks. It was being beautiful or being pretty or being not the biggest girl in the room. That was always very visual. And I spent a lot of my young adult years in visual spaces. I was a television reporter. I did theater, so it was all visual, and I felt the pressure to conform to those standards of beauty. And that wasn't really a healthy goal or reason for my goal. And it took me a long time to realize that. In my 40s, I started seeing things happen, not just with how losing weight was a little more difficult, but my body changing, as we age. And I had a whole mind shift. I was no longer in television. I was a teacher. I was no longer worried about that physical appearance as much as I was about my health. And so I took things by the reins at that point and started to run and made myself a goal of finishing a marathon. And at 48, I did. And wasn't the fastest one. In fact, I went to school the next day and my kids said, "How did you do? What place did you get?" I said 7,100 and blah, 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 blah. And they went, "What?" But I was so happy about that because I didn't collapse. I actually finished. Um, but that was a shift for me mentally in terms of what was important. But I was still using the old ways of losing weight. I didn't make that complete mind shift. And for me, that's I've been stuck until now. So when Rita asks us in the shift to create that vision of your future self or your ideal weight self, at first I thought, you know what, that's me in my 20s, or that was me in my 30s when I lost that weight and da da da. But how realistic is that for a 62-year-old to think they're going to look like they looked when they're in their 20s? So I said, all right, I need to make this real for now. And so what you said earlier, Rita, really resonated with me. We have to think of where we are now and create sustainable, intelligent goals for who we can be. So instead of skinny, beautiful, sexy, those things, my goals now are healthy, strong, fit, flexible, all of those things, which if you can achieve those, automatically people around you will start saying things like, you look beautiful, or you look, so I don't even have to worry about those being goals anymore. But that full marathon was that turning point mentally in some ways, but being in the shift has connected all the dots for me. And so now when I think of my vision of my future self, in fact, I brought it because I have it upstairs with me to check. It's
Oh,
just the one time I finished my marathon.
I
You
love
can see that.
it. Look at
It's just,
that.
and if you look, there's a really nice slender woman behind me crossing the finish line. I was not slender. I've always been a kind of a athletic build. But it tells me a story about who I am. And that those bigger, chunkier legs, which I still have, they're just a little smaller, are my dad's, and I just treasure that I have a whole different view on who I am and what I want to look at. So, or what I want to be. Um, I guess I'm just looking at my little notes here and think if there's anything more to say. I just like who I'm going to become. I use a photo and I think about my purpose in life now, which is being a great grandma, not a great grandma, but a terrific grandma to my 5 grandchildren. And that requires health and fitness. So here I am.
I love
That
that. And
resonates
I
with someone.
I love how you shifted the focus. And I think that's an important point for everybody because I think it's sometimes when we set our ideal weight goal too, it's very arbitrary, especially if we've never been at that, like I want to be this number, or this was what I was in high school. And that's all, everybody's going to figure it out for themselves. But I love the shift from sexy, beautiful to strong, confident ownership of yourself. And I 100% agree that then from within, you are emanating that beauty of confidence and strength. 100%. Thank you, Laura. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
Um, so you guys got that vision. And again, if you aren't there right now, that we're not asking you to be. So we're just saying this is a place that you can start asking questions from. And we're going to really be getting into the mind skills and meeting your inner coach and working on that. So there's going to be a lot more help in that area as well. So now let's talk about our fun inner critic and our inner rebel, which we are going to learn a lot more about this week too. I'm going to say and ask me because I want everybody to see all of your responses. So if you can respond, please do. Have you already told yourself you've blown it by now? Put a 1 in chat if you said I blew it. At some point in this process. Good. Well, I'm glad, Diana. Nope. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, you guys are advanced. Okay. Yeah. I mean, my chances are at some point you might say, oh, I blew it today. I'm not saying you blew the process, but that I blew it today or, it doesn't feel good. And I would just want you to know that that's okay. That's, failure to launch. Okay, things are just starting to click finally. Laura, it's never too late to launch. Just start with the first little baby step. And I think that's important for everybody. We are here for all of you, meaning no matter even if you have not even done day one yet, it's okay. We are, 7 days into this. You are not too far behind. Like I said, my daughter did the Santiago trail in Portugal into Spain this summer. And, I just think as she saw there were so many people on the trail and some were really fit and some were, just trotting along, but everybody's on that trail and on their pilgrimage, right? And we're all on kind of our weight mastery pilgrimage. So we are all here together. And so even if you are on day one, we are holding the space for you to get going, to just start doing that first hypnosis session and that first meditation session. And that's why we give you 6 months, because we know sometimes life happens or we get a slow start and that's okay. I don't know, Cherie, maybe do you want to speak to your first month in the shift?
Sure, Rita. Um, I don't know if it's just me or I'm too much of I had too much of an inner rebel, so to speak. But it was a little bit hard for me in the beginning. I think I was so broken when I came to the shift from all this dieting history that I had. I just had a hard time grasping everything and being maybe even kind of rah-rah. I wasn't really there. But I kept going, and I kept uh, trying to keep up. I was overwhelmed. I didn't keep up 100%. There was no 100% or perfect in my beginning of my first month. But I will tell you, and I didn't lose any weight, and I wasn't exercising. But what happened is I think some seeds were planted, and then I started going back, listening to things that made a difference to me, listening to Rita's podcast. Those were a big help for me. And then eventually, probably in the third month, was when I started walking. But I did start recording, I did start weighing, I did start using the tools, and little by little, I get to 75 pounds down. So it does, just to be patient with yourself. I don't know if there's some of you out there. I know a lot of people are having a hard time, and they're usually people that aren't coming to the meetings and aren't posting in Facebook, but just know that just give it your best shot, keep going one step at a time, and you'll get there.
Thank you so much, Cherie. I think that I'm so glad you spoke, because it's so important to understand that even if you aren't there yet, we are so trained in our diet mind that I'm 7 days into something, this is my expectation, but it's still a dieter mind expectation. And what Cherie said is she did not release weight at all in that first month. She did not exercise at all in that first month, but she did what she could. Seeds were planted. And now it's, been a long time that she's kept 75 pounds off. And, I know you had some physical stuff like a knee replacement, or that, need a surgery, but that you worked up to a lot of walking every single day. But it was little bit by little bit by little bit. And I have been observing weight journeys for, 2 decades. And I will tell you that the long sustained weight mastery, this is what we're working on. I'm going to keep repeating myself. We are not working on getting skinny fast. We are working on a new idea, which is training myself now for being in the game a long time. And that it doesn't look like it used to look. So, and it's hard in the beginning to get that because we're so trained in that old paradigm. So I think Cherie was very helpful in just kind of opening the door for those of you who feel really behind and that you aren't there yet. It's okay. Seeds are being planted. So keep the faith, keep showing up for yourself, keep moving forward one baby step at a time. And you too can continue on this journey. The tortoise and the hare. It's slow and steady is really where this game is played. Okay. Thank you again. So self-correct what works and what doesn't work. So this is really the new paradigm, which is that didn't work for me. How can it work better next time? And we're retraining our brain. Don't use that filter of good and bad. Like I said, good is as bad as bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm being good. No, you're not. You're actually just doing a number of behaviors that serve you. Does that make sense, you guys? And I want you to start to distinguish because when we say good, it whitewashes everything so that we don't get distinctions of what the behaviors are that are serving us, that are going to sustain us long term. You follow what I'm saying? We all know good. And good feels good, you guys. So we're kind of addicted to that. So you got to just kind of be careful around there and start to pull back and go, no, I'm not being good. What are the behaviors that I'm doing? What's working for me in this situation right now? What did I do that worked for me, right? Because good, you lose. Bad, you lose. What's working and what's not working, you learn. And that's where our heads want to be at, right? Um, Somebody's asking, and it's a good question. Question for later, is the expectation that we'll be logging, tracking everything for the, or is really something that we do while we're actually. So for right now, everybody has their own take on that. Some people, actually use it for Ever Steve. The studies show that most weight masters, I'm just going to go from studies, just so you have, facts, that most people who have long-term success used tracking for their entire weight release journey. And then as they got into maintenance, that varied. The results varied. So I hope that helps you kind of pinpoint that it doesn't have to be forever. But and for me, I've been doing this long term. I don't always track, but if I gain weight, then I go back to tracking so that I get my brain and measuring and all that. So I get because our brain gets very blousy very quickly. So tracking is just a helpful way. But in this weight release part, it is so important to become that scientist and track the data. So hopefully that, but again, observe the thought that creates the feelings, and the part of you that might be resisting it or feeling like this isn't serving me or I don't want to do this long term. Don't allow yourself to get too far ahead. Like, does this mean I have to do this forever? Just look at it as brain training for now, and that these are muscles that you are developing that will allow you that success long term and the skills long term. And everybody is different. So like I said, there are people that are in our community that are tracking long term. Some people use it intermittently. Everybody is different. So there's no yes or no answer to that. I hope that makes sense. Observe the thoughts, and yeah, just for today. And don't compare to normal people your life, and don't compare to everybody else in here. We've already said that, but something about, normies. We're going to talk about this more during Carb Savvy, but everybody walks their own road. And I think it's very easy. Our inner rebel is very good at saying, well, they don't have to do that. Why do you? You're in, our inner critics like, you're a freak that you have to track and you have to do all these things. And what's wrong with you? I work with a lot of different types of people, and a lot of naturally thin people track their food, especially over the age of 40, just because, our bodies all change. A lot of people are managing their food, even though they've never been an ounce over their ideal weight, because we live in a world full of food choices, and full of addictive food. And it's there are many, many people out there who have never struggled with weight per se, but want to be healthy and want to be mindful about what goes in their bodies, and want to remain their ideal weight. And so they've developed this way of interacting with themselves. It's the same inner communication system that allows for long-term health and weight management. I hope this makes sense, you guys. So you don't know what that other person, like that thin person who's eating the hamburger and French fries, maybe didn't eat at all today. Maybe that's the only calories they're going to be eating that day. You don't know. When you look at people and make assumptions, it really takes your power away from you. So the only thing we can control is our inner thoughts and how we manage ourselves. And so stay out of everybody else's lane. You'll be a lot happier. I had once, when I was in my early 20s, a psychic who said to me, honey, she was from Brooklyn, New York. She was like, honey, if you try to be like everybody else, you'll cry your whole life, and it's just so true that, stay in your own lane, you will be a lot happier. And this is a journey between, we are here as a community to support you but we're supporting you in creating that powerful, intimate relationship with yourself. Okay. So now, I'm sorry, I have all these things in front of me. Deanne, you want to jump in and
Hi,
share?
yes. I'm Deanne and I went through shift in fall of 2024. I was so excited when I found Rita. She wanted me to talk to you a little bit about the rebel and the critic, and I've always been really good friends with my rebel and my critic. They've been a big part of my life. But I think I started on my weight struggle probably back when I was in elementary school, in PE class. If you guys remember PE class, my PE coach was going to teach us how to play basketball, and so got all the athletic ones together and taught them to dribble and everything. Well, us chubbier ones got to walk the court and get in better shape. So we got to follow the lines on the court around and around. And that's when I realized I had an issue. And so I started having this identity, and Rita introduced this concept of, what do you call it? Limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
I started having this identity that I couldn't be coached. And I didn't realize that till a friend of mine became a life coach, and she asked me, have you ever had a life coach? And I'm like, no, I can't be coached. Well, then I met Rita and discovered that that coach is inside me. And I started having this inner dialogue with this rebel and this critic who's kind of been running the show. Because really the critic, Rita introduced me to the concept that they were actually there for my good. They were trying to do the best for me. My critic got me through college and helped me succeed and, pushed me to be who I am. My rebel allowed me to have a lot of fun. But working together, they also helped me develop this fluffy attitude that, people feel more welcome if I'm a little heavier or something, or people like me better if I'm heavier. And then I found Rita and discovered my inner coach. And so that's been a big journey for me, because we can have this inner dialogue and realize that the critic and the rebel are just trying to help us, but they just don't know how to. And that coach can talk to them like a grown-up and be the grown-up in the room and kind of corral everybody and pull us all together. And it really helps having those conversations inside, trying to think through how to get through these processes without all the criticism. One of the things I like is that through this next week, I think you're going to kind of be more and more introduced to your critic and your rebel and kind of picture what they look like. For me, my rebel is the younger version of myself, my teenage self, and she is a lot of fun, but she doesn't necessarily want to do all the right things. And my inner critic looks like a boss I had at a job I had, who was very, I love her. She was very, very nice, but very critical and she didn't necessarily want to have I'm a bookkeeper. I do accounting. And she had always done her books on a spreadsheet and just given it to her tax accountant. So she was always critical about needing a bookkeeper and even wanting to pay me to do that work. But she bought this complicated accounting program, and it was kind of a monster of an accounting program. And so I was doing a lot of really good, but she was constantly criticizing. And so in my head, that's who she is. And it's easy to talk to her though, because she also just wanted my good. And she always told me, Deanne, you don't know what you don't know. You just don't know what you don't know. And I've been learning that a lot. I don't know what I don't know. So I love this process of learning. And so the grown-up inner me, the grown-up coach in me has kind of brought those together. And I'm hoping that happens for you guys too.
Definitely. Well,
No.
great coaching, Dan. Yeah, I mean, we are going to get to know all these different parts of ourselves so much better. And that's why, and there are yet more parts of us to be revealed. as we dig in, but you know, you've got your scientist and you're going to learn about your critic and rebel. And this weekend, you're going to learn a little bit about the carb zombie. And so we have so many parts of us, but I think for right now, just really learning, and wrapping our minds around the critic and the rebel is so helpful to break out of that old, you know, to be able to manage them. It's really, I think weight management is kind of like being the CEO of your own company because you're managing the parts of yourself, you're thinking ahead, you're being strategic. So you're building the skill set from a place of you really being the boss for the first time in your life about your weight, your health, and how you take care of yourself if you've been, you know, looking to diets and everything outside of you. And it can be scary in the beginning, but like we all know that you have it in you. It's just about connecting that powerful inner nurturer part of you that already exists. That's, you know, you already know so much about weight management, but it's just connecting it to you in the right way and giving you the reins. So I want to talk a little bit about, I hope that makes sense to you guys. Um, and our coach is amazing. Like, it's, you know, I can speak till I'm blue in the face, but until you really hear it from people who have been through it, not, you know, long before you, I don't think it drives it in. And so our coaches just are so special and magical. So, and that's why I'm going to have both Lynn and then Lynn, are you here? I think you might be here.
I am here.
Hey, Lynn, nice to see you. Um, I want Lynn and I'm going to have Mary to speak about weight release expectations, tracking, because again, I'm seeing a lot I know tracking has been very opening for a lot of you. And also weighing yourself probably has been eye-opening. And I just want to remind all of you that so much of these first 4 weeks physiologically is going to be a water weight dance, meaning it will be up, it will be down, it might not do anything. And none of that, that's why tracking is so important to really know where your expectations should be, even though the scale might be up and down. Over time, what happens, and you know, I'll have Mary and Lynn both speak to this, is that it normalizes itself because you are getting all these data points and your subconscious mind is taking it on, and then you start to understand more intuitively, oh yeah, my weight is up today, but I ate salt yesterday. You desensitize yourself to what's going on the scale. But I understand also where you are in this process 7 days in, you're not desensitized yet. So there is a lot of drama. There can be a lot of drama on the scale when it isn't, or when drama, both good, like, oh my gosh, I've released so much weight, and oh my God, I haven't lost any weight, or I've gained weight, you know, 5 pounds, what's going on? And all of that is please don't let any of that allow you to give up, but allow you to get curious and just get the data and keep moving forward, because all will be more revealed in time. But this is one of the hardest parts of my job, is to help you navigate all the inner drama that goes on when you're getting on the scale from that old mindset, and help you shift into a more powerful mindset. And that's why we use that word scientist, because that scientists, you see them, they're in their lab coat, they're very rational, and they're just taking the data, they're working against a hypothesis, and they're trying to figure it out, but they don't have all the pieces. My son is at UC Irvine. He's in chemical engineering, and he's in 3 labs right now. And he's really, because he's like, I'm working on a hypothesis, and you know, he's doing all these things, and he's like, this experiment did not go well, but that does not mean you know, that's not bad news. It's just that now we have another piece of data, right? So you want to think like that. You want to think, well, the fact that the scale is up 3 pounds isn't great news like for you today, but it's great data that is going to be very educational for you. So you know, 1 week in, the water weight's going to be all over the place. 3 weeks in, it's going to start normalizing a little bit. 6 weeks in, you're going to get more of a sense of the trend that your weight, like if you've burned 3,500 calories times 5 by week 6, the scale should be down around 5 pounds. You should see that. But in the first few weeks, you might have burned 7,000 calories, but the scale still might be flatline. And I wish it was easier, and I wish it was more aligned with every reality, but it's not. And that's why we have to really learn to manage our thinking in this. So Lynn, I'd love to have you, tell us your story, a little bit about you and your experience going through this, because I know you were a little scared about getting on the scale and doing stuff like that.
Hey there, everybody. So leading up to the shift, I had not stepped on a scale in 2 years. I wouldn't let a doctor put me on the scale, and they would fight me on that. And I was engaged in a process of body peace and body acceptance, trying to reject the cultural expectations and the advertising and all those external pressures. But when I really thought about it, I wasn't happy at my current weight. I wanted to be in a smaller body. I wanted to be able to dance. I wanted to be able to move. I wanted to be able to travel and walk. And I had been on a journey with a program called Always Hungry. So I was somewhat familiar with MyFitnessPal through that. And so the day one on the shift, I got on the scale. All of the background teaching that Rita has done about the scientist aspect of it really helped. I had to start somewhere. I started on day one. I was going to weigh myself twice a week. I took Tuesdays and Fridays at Rita's suggestion, because the weekends sometimes we maybe indulge a little more than we would during the week. I've been very fortunate. The scale has moved down at a pretty rapid rate. I would say in terms of my tracking, that I do track everything I eat. I have a ring, which is technology that tracks my movement, my exercises, my calorie burn, but I don't buy into the calorie burn of my exercise, and I don't eat those calories. I figure that is my buffer area. That's extra calories that will either push my weight down on the scale or accommodate any going over budget that I might do, which I don't allow myself to do very regularly. So I'm familiar with tracking. I use MyFitnessPal. I have a lot of recipes stored in it. And since starting the shift, I started spring 2025. I don't know how, I would just want to say, I don't know how this has happened, but I'm down like 45 pounds. And I move a lot. I was never a step counter, but it's routinely, I'm like 12,000 steps. When I traveled in Chicago, I was 21,000 steps. Yeah, calories were a bad word, but now I get it. I've developed a lot of meals that are delicious. I count the calories. I stay in my budget. And I've actually used Rita's weight calculator. Sometimes I'll just set my weight, my calorie demands at the next 10 pounds down. And that shaves a little bit off of it. And I meet my goals, and I've moved down. And Rita, am I going off the rails here? Have I hit
No, you're
what
doing
you want
great.
me to hit?
Um,
One thing I did want to say, Steve made that comment about the rigorous tracking. And I feel like once you see the payoff of your work, it's going to shift your perspective about the time you're investing in the tracking, because you're going to see it's a worthwhile investment of time, and it's getting you to where you want to go. And you're not in some amorphous space of what have I done? What have I eaten? You know what it is. So you know what corrective action you need to take to get to where you want to go.
Exactly. Amazing, Lynn. Thank you so much. I think that's very helpful. I think, and those of you who are just weighing once a week, I would just caution you because there are so many variabilities with water weight, at least right now, to try to move it to 2 or 3 if you can. Even if you've always done it, and just because you might get on the scale and you might be up 3 pounds of water weight from the day before, but you don't, but it might go down the next day, but you wouldn't know because you aren't collecting the data that day. So, just a reminder. Thank you, Lynn. Mary, you want to hop in?
Sorry about that. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. I call myself a Shifty because I'm a Taylor Swift fan and they call themselves Swifty. So I'm a fellow Shifty. I've been shifting since fall of 2024. I won't bore you with my weight gain story because I think we all share a lot of that. I'm down 18 pounds since starting the shift. I started when we dropped our youngest child off to college. I thought, oh, now's the perfect time to concentrate on me. And what I didn't plan for is we received thousands of invitations from friends since we were now free on the weekends to go out, go out, go out. And we accepted many of those invitations. So when I started the shift, the first couple months, I just maintained because I wasn't really tracking on the weekends. I was tracking really good during the week. And then the weekends would come and I'd be like, well, I don't know how many calories that was. I don't remember what I ate. So I had to really double down on tracking. And I will tell you, Steve, I share your concerns about, oh, I don't want to track everything. It was a big resistance point for me. And the shift helped me start to realize, as Lynn said, that we're scientists here. And what I learned is that tracking is not punishment, it's about precision and we want to try and hit the bullseye as much as we can. So I was losing focus on the bullseye. And once I doubled down on tracking, really tracking 100% as best as I could, and accepting that maybe I don't know the exact calories. I'm a CPA, so I want everything to be exact. I had to start saying, it's about this many calories. Even that habit of tracking kept me in line. And one of the side effects that I didn't think would come about that has been very good is it's got me in touch with my rebel and the coach and the critic. And I noticed that this is when I was like, wow, I'm really shifting. I had an upsetting call. My daughter would call me from college. She was upset about something. I coached her through it. Everything was fine. I thought I was fine. And I wanted to eat. And I was like, wait a minute. I just tracked. I ate 2 hours ago. I had good amounts of protein and fiber. Am I really hungry? And that's when I saw the rebel was playing a trick on me. And Rita will teach you to say, what do you need? And when I said, what do you need? I started crying. I didn't realize I had to release some of this energy that I had taken from my daughter. Um, so I want to encourage everyone to don't do what I did in the beginning and just track a few days a week. Track every day. And then the second thing with the scale, I think I posted in the group this week. If you're finding it difficult with this scale, there's an app called Happy Scale, and it trends your weight. And I found that very helpful because if you're just shooting for a half a pound, you may feel like you're not losing weight because like Rita said with the water weight, if you have one weekend where you eat something salty, it goes back up. But if you're tracking the trend, you'll start to see that you really are trending down, even though there's certain days where the scale is high. Um, so I think the foundation of all of this is start with the tracking and the understanding what you're eating, learning swaps. That's another thing that tracking helped me do. I decided to swap real mayonnaise for light mayonnaise, half a piece of cheese instead of a full piece of cheese. And they were the easy swaps that helped me get a couple hundred calories down out of my day. So that
Amazing.
is my story. I have 10 more pounds to lose, and I'm excited to be a coach because I'm doubling down in the program.
Right. And I do think those last 10 pounds require more precision. And
I do.
so it does, by the time you get there, you're better, it's more of a skill. So you're better prepared for those last 10
Yeah.
pounds. And
I
I think
encourage everyone to buy a food scale too. I'm sorry, Rita,
oh
to
yeah,
buy a
no.
food scale too. I have found that you should weigh your peanut butter, you should weigh your oil. That's all very helpful. Sorry, Rita.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, no, 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 no. I was just reinforcing what you were saying, including daughters dumping on us, and then they're super happy, and you're like holding all of their energy. They're really good at that, but my daughter's in the other one. But yeah, it's funny, and it's definitely. I loved how you said that. Like, what do I really need right now? That's not food, but you have that ability. That's great. Um. Okay, my friends. Thank you so much, Lynn and Mary. Those were really helpful shares, and I think we are ready to move into the next part of uh, our coaching today, which is night eating. So I'm going to now go to the board. I've had my board is very naughty today. It keeps wanting to un do itself. And I'm going to review I do have stuff in my PowerPoint, but I just kind of like to talk through these things. And I will have Laura speak in just a moment, but I'm just going to talk about, nighting generally. How many of you are struggling with some sort of over snacking, overeating at night, whether it is after, right in front of the TV, or when you get home from work, or so put a one, or yeah, me, no. So some yes, some no. Okay. And so it's really important to know that not everybody struggles with night eating, but those who do, it can be very much a deep struggle, because it just is it's definitely a set of patterns to get. And I would say that even the term night eating, it's hard to define. Like Deanne was saying, I always thought it was you woke up in the middle of the night and ate. But from my perspective, it's anywhere from 5 o'clock at night to, the next morning. So, but for most people here, it typically would be between the hour, like after dinner to going to bed. How many of you wake up and eat in the middle of the night? Just put a one in chat, just trying to get a sense. 9 to 12, no, one, okay. Sometimes one, okay. So some of you wake up and do it. 5 p.m., way too early. Well, some people come home, Joanne, and their night eating might take place prior to dinner. It might be that they have a pre-dinner pattern. So that's why we say, and why I say at night after 5 is because 5 is about the hour. 4 to 5 is the time when our brain gets so saturated by making decisions that we have almost zero willpower left, and we're kind of left to our impulse. It's like our impulse control has gone away. So night eating patterns emerge for many reasons, but often the nighttime is a more challenging time for many people because our days are structured way more than our evenings in many ways. And because we have gone through a full day, and our brain now, our ability to manage impulses decreases dramatically. So we are really the creature of habits and patterns way more than we are in the day, when we have more willpower to manage things. Does this make sense, you guys? I know, I'm sure most of you have heard my saying, if we all went to bed at 5 o'clock, we would be thin. Yeah. So one of the main challenges are a lack of willpower, not because you're bad or wrong, but just because, by 5 o'clock, your brain is pooped and doesn't want to make decisions and manage you. And that we do have a lack of structure. Also, for a lot of people, how many of you under eat early before dinner, like you might forget to eat, or you are hoarding calories until dinner, and so you allow yourself to get too hungry. And so then now we're dealing also with blood sugar issues. You guys are going to learn about protecting your zero, meaning like allowing yourself to get so hungry that what happens is that when you begin eating, it starts this perpetual train in motion where it's a leptin and blood sugar thing, where our leptin levels have gone so low. And once we start eating, it takes the leptin a long time to regulate. So what happens is we can way overeat before our body says, I've had enough now. And so a lot of that will happen for those people who maybe have been under eating all day, and then they come home and they begin eating and it turns into a binge. Again, not because you're some sort of binge monster, but because you just not allowed yourself to get too hungry. And that put in play this physiological train that is really impossible to stop once it starts. So a lot of what we're going to be opening up the doors to as we get into the 9 skills of weight mastery is really tuning into patterns and self-management. And now that we've laid the groundwork that you aren't this horrible person who is an idiot, or but that you are smart, you have all the brain power you need to manage your weight long term. But now we need to kind of nuance this and get into patterns and behaviors and decisions that you used to make, and start to change those. Like, why am I under eating from noon until 5? And then I'm so hungry that I eat everything in the kitchen. Maybe I need to feed myself, invest a couple hundred calories at 4 o'clock. So I'm going into my evening feeling fed. So I'm not even needing to eat until dinner time. And then I can eat, because what happens is sometimes we get so hungry in the afternoon that then that will perpetuate that pre-dinner binge, or we'll overeat at dinner, and then that will continue into the evening because we don't feel quite fed yet. Or it might change your eating choices, which we will get into on Saturday, where we're eating dinner in a way that is setting off wanting more food after dinner, even though we've fed ourselves enough calories. It's a lot of times it's blood sugar issues that are making us feel hungrier, or the habit of needing to eat. So, who else has like, I deserve it, I've had a hard day, I need a reward, I need to fill the void. Those kinds of feelings begin to come up. And as Mary was saying, like, what, I've just eaten dinner, what's really going on here? What do I truly need? So patterns, I just want to talk about patterns a little bit, because one thing to really understand, and a lot of what we're going to be talking about from this point on, and then I'm going to walk this through, and then I'll let Laura speak, and then I'm going to go through more of the curriculum about night eating, is that and maybe some of you've heard me speak about this, but it never hurts to refresh, is that once a pattern is created, let's say I eat dinner, and then an hour after dinner, I'm watching TV, and I'm in a habit of getting up and making some popcorn, which seems very innocent. So that's fine. I get up and I make some popcorn. Okay. And then though, once I eat that popcorn, there's another pattern of eating a little ice cream, and then there's another pattern of maybe eating another salty crunchy, because we usually do salty, sweet, salty, and that's just how it works out. There's a physiological mechanism, and I don't know enough about it to speak to you about it, but it's a physiological thing. But anyway, the point being is I now have this pattern of 3. And how many of you guys, like, how many pieces of your night eating pattern would you say there are? Like, how many times would you like get up, or is it maybe just one big go to the kitchen and eat, or is it like 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3? Yeah, it's often 2, 3, 4. Okay. So check this out. What happens is most of your eating is not you need to eat, but your brain has been trained to do this. And what happens is dopamine will bug you. It will say, oh, it's been an hour. I expect, that first thing, I want the popcorn, and it will start to agitate you. So you're sitting there watching TV and you're saying, I'm not going to night eat. I'm not going to night eat. But your brain is like, let's night eat. Let's have that popcorn. Where's that popcorn? Where's that popcorn? And I call this the ringing phone effect, because if my phone was ringing, right? And I was like, if my phone was ringing right now and I was talking to you all, and I was like, oh, ignore my phone, you guys, I'm just going to keep talking to you, blah, 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 ring, ring, blah, 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 ring, blah, blah, blah. You'd be like, when is she going to pick up that phone? And you would be a little more agitated, a little more annoyed, a little more agitated, a little more annoyed. So when I go to pick up the phone and I say, okay, you guys, I'm going to pick up the phone, and I do, oh, thank God she picked up the phone, you feel relief. So what happens is when you're sitting there and it's the beginning of the evening and you're like, I'm not going to night eat tonight. And then, but that phone for the popcorn begins to ring, half hour in, and it gets louder and it gets louder. It's like, nope, I'm not going to eat the popcorn. I'm not going to eat the popcorn. But remember, your brain is already, impulse controlled, tired. And this phone is getting louder and louder. So you're like, oh, screw it. I'm going to get up and I'm going to get the popcorn, right? So I go and I grab the popcorn. Even before I eat the popcorn, I begin to calm down because I know I'm going to eat the popcorn, and I've already started to answer the phone, right? So the going to get it is already beginning to calm me down. Now, what's going on in my subconscious mind is it's saying, oh, see, eating calms you down or soothes you or something. But it's really more, once dopamine, the wanting brain, gets what it wants or expects, it will shut up. But the problem is then you're sitting in front of a bowl of 400 calories worth of popcorn or whatever, and now you're going to eat it all, right? And when we start to eat it, the first signal is, ooh, this is great. But then the rest of it, 90% of it, we don't even experience until we hit the bottom of the bowl. But then the next phone begins to ring. And because now we expect the next snack, if we're in the pattern of 2 or 3 or 4 snacks. Does this make sense, you guys? So what happens is that there's this pattern of ringing phones, and our night eating isn't so much that we're this out of control beast that needs to eat, past the point of being full. It's that our brain is literally, it doesn't care how full you are. It doesn't care. It's like, I expect that you are going to eat this, and I'm going to bug you until you do. So you're in this pattern, and it's you're not eating, it's eating you. It is owning you. Does this make sense? I work with smokers, so it's a similar dopamigenic pattern, right? So I want to remove from you that you're bad and wrong that this is happening. This is just something that your brain has gotten trained in, and now your job isn't to be good and not night eat, but to create a new evening, in your mind. You need to create new wiring in your mind that will overcome and surpass this night eating. So it's easier not to fight the wiring, but to create a new path forward. Does this make sense? Okay, good. So Laura, why don't you come on in and talk about your experience with, busting through your night eating pattern, and then I'll get into how we begin to do this.
All righty. Well, for many years, my night eating pattern had to do with when my husband went to bed because I was always such a good girl. But I was always a night owl, and he went to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm up till 11:30 or midnight, even when I was working. But that was my time. I think I got a little dopamine rush just realizing that he's going to bed. He's going to bed. It's my time to go have something. And I didn't go in and just had something. It was a big bowl of ice cream with caramel. It was a full-on PBJ sandwich. It was some stuff that I really had no business eating at that time, but wow, did it hit the spot. Um, that was a big problem for many, many years. And so when I started making the shift, I knew that I had to get that under control. And it really took me a few months before I found what works for me, because I know it's something, can be something different for everybody. What I have found works for me was controlling when I ate my proteins, when I ate my carbs, because I always reach for the bread, the ice cream, that type of stuff. Well, almost completely nil of carbs, of protein. So I first started with the afternoon snack, changing it from something that was carby to protein. So I'll go to cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, and I might include some sugar-free, fat-free Jello powder in my yogurt, and that way I can make it any fruit flavor I want, or I might just add a little fruit to it as well. But the Greek yogurt's a biggie. I love that. Um, I always have hard-boiled eggs on hand because two of them are about 140 calories, and that makes a great afternoon. I love eggs, so that for me, that's satisfying. But I noticed that that was making a difference. Um, then I always plan for a a little bite of something, a little snack around that 7:30, 8 o'clock time, because that just had become a habit for my husband. It was hard to, that was a long span from 4 to 5 o'clock to where I used to snack at 10:30 to break. So, but now I choose healthier things. I choose another dose of those protein products that I just told you about. I recently made some oatmeal protein powder, like they're little balls of yumminess, 100 calories each, and that's really satisfying. But if I have something small, I really know that I've slept better. I don't crave those foods. I don't have all those food thoughts that I had. And even if I have those nights where I'm staying up after I say goodnight to my husband, I fill it with, instead of food, I fill it with something I want to do now, like paint or do the New York Times puzzles on my phone, or um, I don't know, a number of different things that I can do tootling around the house, but I fill it with those physical things that I can do rather than food. And I really am not hungry anymore after he goes to bed. I kind of get excited that I have time to do some things. Um, one thing that I do is plan for that nighttime snack, though. We were talking about tracking and that it can feel overwhelming. And I use MyFitnessPal and I put in everything I eat. And then about a month ago, it occurred to me, we kind of eat the same things. Aren't we in a habit of the same so many meals we are on repeat? Well, I just printed them out on my fitness.
Wow.
And this becomes my grocery list. This becomes what I eat. I don't have to enter romaine lettuce over and over and over again. It's right here. And then my snack is there. And so I think it's just kind of comforting to know that I have everything planned, including that evening, 7:30, 8 o'clock, last minute snack for me. And that it, I know it's still at night, but it is healthy, it is intentional, it is protein, and it's made a big difference.
That is such a great iteration of what we're going to go through. So thank you, Laura, because what Laura did some things. First of all, she recognized that this is a project and not today it's going to change and it's going to be like it's going to be worked out tomorrow. When you're breaking a pattern like this, which is so powerful and has been so repeated in the back of your brain, it will probably take trial and error. So that's why you guys are now having a better understanding of yourself and understanding of what we're doing here, which isn't overnight, this is going to change, but this is like you now have the tools to start to make the changes. She also became the scientist. Could you hear that? She went back into her afternoon and said, okay, where does this start? Because for most of us, night eating starts earlier in the day. And in fact, I'm going to say it starts right when you wake up, that when you start changing, you want to, in that little powwow meditation session in the morning, you want to visualize what you're going to do that night. so that you're putting in play in your subconscious mind, just like athletes do when they think the game through before the game. You want to go, because if you start managing your night eating at night, the train has already left the station. Your brain is already going to go follow through on what that old pattern is. It's going to be harder to fight that than earlier in the morning when you're setting a new path forward. So the first thing, when we want to begin to address night eating is to really remove that identity of being a night eater. Like I want to strip this away and really look at it more like, and you might not have that like, oh, I'm a night eater, but I'm a snacker, or I'm uncontrollable at night, or I'm a TV eater, or whatever identity you feel that's kind of holding you in this old place, and to start to create this new identity of what you want your evenings to be. Like I'm somebody who is a health, like I have a mantra, and we're going to talk about mantras, but I used to be a huge night eater. I used to be a very perpetual night eater. And when I shifted, I recognized a couple of things. One, that my nights were boring, like that food was the entertainment for me. And so I had to say, well, that, like Laura, I was like, oh, well, maybe there are things that are more deeply nourishing to me that I can enjoy doing at night that will fill me up, that will take care of me. Because a lot of us, have developed evenings out of habit rather than what really is fulfilling for me at night, like what really restores me, rejuvenates me, connects me to myself. So there's that. So the identity is like, what could be my identity? So one of my identities is I'm food free in front of the TV. So if I am going to watch TV, like I fast from dinner until breakfast the next day. And fasting is and we're going to get into that in a moment, is more active than trying not to eat. Because fasting is doing something and it's engaging your brain in a different way than trying not to eat, because then you're fighting against that old pattern. So the identity part is to start to think of, like, open up your mind to what that could look like. And again, you might not have the answer today, and that's okay. I want you to start to see this as a project, and to really start to own that. And to own like some identities. The next thing you want to do is to start to create that vision of your evening. So as you can see, there's this identity that we're creating as an apprentice, but as you go through your shift and as you continue past these 30 days, there's going to be multiple identities that are sort of separate little identities underneath the bigger identity. So, with regards to exercise, with regards to your social eating, night eating, all these different things, you're going to create these new, more powerful ideas of yourself in those areas where you might be challenged, in those areas of weight management where we're building out new skills. So I invite you to be flexible minded about, oh, okay, this idea of what I do after dinner at night, let me, explore that, because we don't want to be rigid and go, well, I do this and I'm fighting against this idea. It's just like, well, what could it be? What is the opportunity here for me? And you might end up having the same kind of evening as you do right now, but it just might look more aligned, like Laura, who just said, I'm going to have one snack. I'm going to really enjoy it. It's going to be at 8 o'clock or whenever, beginning, middle, and end, and I'm done. And then I go to bed feeling light, and I feeling good. So it might look exactly the same, or you might crack open your evening to a whole other world. Like I started learning stuff at night, like taking little courses. I started digging into like cleaning out closets and figuring out my house, and like, after dinner for me now is I went to the gym and I worked out at 9 o'clock last night, just because I had no time earlier in the day. And I kind of like going to the gym at 9 o'clock at night because it's quiet, and and I just tuned into an interview on a podcast, and it was really stimulating. But I went to bed and I rested. But do you know what I mean? It's like you just want to crack open the evening and start to say, well, what's possible? And what's possible might be exactly what you're doing now, but it might open up a new avenue of personal growth for you. Who knows? So just get curious about that, and then have a vision around what you want the evening to look like. Like Laura, did you, when you did your thing, how did you come to that idea of one snack?
I just decided that's all I would need because I
Okay.
realized that my previous night eating was more just out of not having the tools that I have now. I didn't know there was a carb zombie, for example. I didn't know how to deal with carbs, but now that I have those tools, it makes it a lot easier to be satisfied with one. And like I said, my husband, ritualistic man that he gets his popcorn at 8 o'clock every night. And I thought,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, you know, join him, but I'm gonna have something that's gonna serve me. And it
Right.
works out. And I will say that if it was a day that was imbalanced, maybe I had a lot of physical activity that day, if you're out doing a walk for some good organizations, charity, something, you might feel a little bit more. But I also know that in the refrigerator, I have those little bubbly waters. There's always decaf. But if I need something more, I usually turn to a 0-calorie drink that
Okay.
satisfies me.
Yeah. Well
That's
done. Yeah. Again, everybody has generally what will happen is a lot of people will look at fasting as a possibility, but and then many people will adapt something like Laura has, which is this idea of, I'm going to wait long enough after dinner where I probably, like your husband, at 8 o'clock, it feels like the right time to have one little mindful snack that I can treat, that I can look forward to at the end of the day. They've done cognitive research. They've seen, like, if you give yourself a treat in the evening, not necessarily after dinner, it could be at dinner, but that treat allows you to forego all the treats earlier, or, all the other food noise earlier in the day, and it helps just keep your brain focused towards the end of the day. So practice in the morning in your mind what you want to create that evening. So that might look like, okay, I'm seeing myself finishing dinner. I see myself waiting until 8 o'clock, like Laura. I'll have that snack. Maybe I'll have it in the kitchen, not in front of the TV, so I can be mindful about it. Or maybe the TV works. A lot of this is going to be trial and error for you. And so be willing to learn rather than be perfect at it from out of the gate. You might go, whoops, that didn't work. Let me, reconfigure and try again. And set your environment up for success. So if there are trigger foods in your environment, and we're going to talk about this more on Saturday, but if there are foods that are calling your name, that if you eat one, you're going to eat the whole bag, then they probably shouldn't be in your environment right now. I think there's this whole weird mindset about, well, I should be able to avoid the foods that are in my pantry. I'm like, your brain, your subconscious mind is like saying that food is there, that food is there. Do we need all that white noise bugging us, especially if those are foods that if we eat a little, we're going to eat the whole thing? So much of weight management is stimulus control. Like if it's going to be an issue for you, keep it out of your environment, especially right now while you're rewiring your brain. You don't need the extra challenge. Your brain is being challenged enough doing the work that we're doing. You don't need to challenge it anymore. You know what I mean? Do yourself a favor. Love yourself enough to if it's a challenge for you, get out of your, there's tons of foods that you can have a powerful relationship with that are awesome tasting, that will do it for you. You don't need those old foods that are going to take your power away from you. All right. And again, I think that what we just went through, fasting is an active thing that you can engage your brain in, because here's, how our brain works is like, if I'm trying not to eat popcorn at 8 o'clock, that is creating a void in my brain. Do you guys see that? Like I'm going to go without the word without creates a void and then creates a deprivation mindset. Like, oh, I'm trying to go without my popcorn, trying to go without my ice cream. I'm trying to go without, you know, popsicle or well, you know, whatever, gin and tonic, whatever it is, we're going without it. So instead we want to go, I'm allowing myself to fast, or I'm engaging myself, or like Laura said, I'm giving myself my wonderful power ball at 8 o'clock. You know, like, so we're focusing on our brain, what we're doing, not what we're not doing. Or, you know, it's because without and trying not to are very disempowering, very deprivation mode words. We want to engage in powerful language and powerful focusing in our brain. So we want to, it's just like managing children, you guys, you know, you're not, you, if you're going to take away the doll out of the hand, you hand them something else, you know, and say, here, we're going to do this over here. So you're, you know, guiding in a powerful way. No, without. Yes, thank you, Gail. And then having mantras, I think really help. Coaches, do you guys have any mantras? I have food free in front of the TV. You guys have any nighttime mantras, or Laura, do you have one that you did with your shift over? Oh, you're on
I'm
mute.
sorry, I was responding to a chat person when you asked that question. Could
Oh,
you
okay,
repeat it?
sorry. Anyone? Any of you coaches have one?
I have a mantra, but it's for tracking. I don't have to like it, but I have to do it.
That's a good one. Yeah, mantras help. It's kind of like self-hypnosis. I find that mantras are just your way of self-hypnotizing yourself. So if you can come up with
I
it.
have a mantra in the evening. I say I am a person who drinks hot tea for dessert.
Ooh, I like that one.
So when I'm having an evening snack, a nice cup of hot tea is nice, but I have to say that to myself over and over. I am a person who.
Can you see, and that is incorporating, Dan, what we talked about in the beginning is, oh, who's that me 5 years from now? Oh, I'm a person who drinks tea in the evening. So good. And then the last thing I want to say is that be patient with this. You're not going to get it tomorrow. It's a project. And a lot of these a lot of these ideas we're talking about can be very effective immediately, but be willing to have a relapse or a breakdown and then learn from that. Does this make sense to you guys? Because it's a work in progress. It's not all at one time. So I just want to put that in perspective. Yeah, you guys with me? Awesome. All right. So any quick questions about night eating? Because we're getting into the hour-and-a-half mark and I want to make sure we have a lot of questions and I want to dive into those. So are we good? You know, put a 1 in chat if you're good, put a 2 in chat if you have a quick question. Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to dive into the questions. Like I said, there are lots of them. So, and I will review really quickly. So, you know, the biggest challenge we have is just we have these old patterns. There's no impulse control, and there's usually a lack of structure in the evenings. We're going to change our identity, think of, you know, a new idea of ourselves, create a vision of what we want to create, make it a project, practice it in the morning when our brains are fresh and have the potency to carry us through. And also that feeling brain, engaging the feeling brain and how it's going to feel to go to bed feeling light. That's the thing I hold in my heart all the time. Going to bed feeling light and aligned with myself. And that is a very powerful carry you through. It's called future pacing, how I want to feel in the future, engaging that brain, your reticular activation center in your brain to carry you through. Set your environment up for success, cue, routine, reward. So, that pattern, the ringing phone pattern, create a new cue, putting that cup of tea out there or the tea bag out there. So when you go into the kitchen, oh, that's right, I make that cup of tea and create that new routine around the healthier habit. And the reward actually is the same, relaxing in the evening and rewarding yourself. Fast after dinner can be a very powerful tool, or giving yourself that one treat that you're mindful of and not so unmindful of. Create a mantra if you can. My old standard food free in front of the TV. Okay. So now, some of these I know if you're here or not. This one, Judy, I'm going to ask, and then coaches, if you want to hop in on any of these two, I might ask you to, but Judy is asking, can you ask questions to the group or individuals during the week other than the sessions? Absolutely. That is what our community is there for. If like you saw one of the coaches speak today, you can tag them in the group and say, oh, I wanted to ask you a little more about what you said. You can tag me. I get notifications, so I know if somebody's tagging me. I don't always see it. If you've asked me a question, like when somebody does a post and then you go down and ask me a question and you don't tag me, 10 down, I'm probably not gonna see it. I'll just be honest with you, and neither will our coaches. So make sure you tag. So tagging is, you're highlighting that, you start typing that, you do the little at sign, and you start typing the person's name, and Facebook will bring up the person's name. You click on it, and that's tagging them so that they're notified that you've asked them a question. So hopefully that helps. And can you munch on veggies during the day? Absolutely 100%. But I would track them, especially right now. You might not need to in the future, but right now, I think being educated, because some vegetables, they have calories, and I know in Weight Watchers it's all 0 points, but they have energy, and they're great energy. Like vegetables are so amazing. So, but yes, you can munch on them during the day. Deborah, you're here. Does it matter how we divide our calories up over the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack? If so, what is recommended? So I don't know about you coaches, but my life changed. And, if you guys want to weigh in on this, when I threw out breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, and I started just to tune in to I eat in a pattern similar to that, but I really got clear on when I was really hungry and tried to feed myself when my body got naturally hungry. So everybody's body here is different. When my body is hungry is probably different than Cherie and from Deanne's and so again, this comes back to Deborah taking ownership over yourself and probably playing around a little bit. So that would be my answer. Coaches, do you have anything to add there? No.
For me,
Um,
I try and keep my lunch kind of light, just I like to have something, but I'll eat a yogurt because I want to save calories for dinner, and I like a big breakfast. So I do try to budget around the whole day.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of reverse engineering where you feel like you need the most calories in your day. For me, it sounds like Mary's similar. I like to sit down to dinner with my husband, so I'll allot the majority of like a lot more calories for that part of the day. And then I work backwards from there. I, like Mary, like to eat a substantial amount of food around 10 o'clock, a lot of protein, and it varies from day to day. But then I won't eat lunch, but I'll just eat something like a yogurt or something in the middle to keep myself stabilized. And then I'll eat a fairly early dinner. And then, I'll fast until usually the breakfast the next day. But I came to that. I didn't, and it changes, it's changed over the 30 years but reverse engineering allows you to go, where do I need, you want to think of it like a budget. Like if you make X amount per week, or per month. And you're putting a large chunk of that towards your mortgage or rent, then you're putting electric and you're like a luxury, all that stuff. You want to kind of look at where am I going to get the most bang for my buck with protein, with stabilization, with pleasure, and start to ask from that place rather than what is right or what is the best way. I think the more we tune in, the better we get, and it can be nuanced. So it will probably take time to come to. I hope that helps, Deborah. And
I have a quick thing that
Yeah.
I can add about that. I plot in my Fitness Pal, and everyone's different about what really matters to them. For me, it really matters that I have cashew milk with my coffee in the morning. It's one of my happy places. I plan for it. Maybe it matters that I have the dessert that I've planned for the evening. So I plot that in my Fitness Pal, and I see what is my balance that I have to use up. And I go at it that way, and it's based on what did I want. So I'm getting what I want.
I love it. Yeah, exactly. Well said, Lynn. Yeah. What do I need? What do I want? And reverse from there, and plotting it out ahead of time in your app can be really, really helpful. So, and asking for daily carbs, proteins, fats. I think we're going to get into that deeply on Saturday. So I'm going to hold off, but I'll just say, I think our main focus is getting enough protein right now. And then Saturday, we're going to tune into the carbs, and whatever is left over, it's like we don't have like this amount of carbs and this amount of protein, and every body's body is different. So, but we recommend at least 55, 60 grams of protein for many reasons: lean tissue retention, stability, satiety. And so we just see that when you're well fed with protein sources throughout the day, food noise goes down, satiety goes up. It just seems to be a really good fit for most people, getting that amount of protein. And it's not a lot, but it's enough to get you going. Okay. Lynn, you said, is this you, Lynn? Okay.
Yes, that's me.
You want to just ask the question?
Yes. So in the beginning, when I created the vision and I looked at myself on the screen, I was wearing this metallic crocodile Clara Sun Wu liquid leather jacket that I'd been coveting but did not make in my size. And it was enough for me to visualize myself in that outfit. And now I have 4 jackets. So I'm finding, like, when I try to create that motivating vision of like what I'm going for, I can put that up on the screen, but it doesn't seem to have the power that it once did. So I feel like I need to shift my vision to
Yeah.
something different. And I've tried on a few different outfits in my vision, but I'm just looking for maybe some input on how I might change that perspective.
I think that's a really good question. And I would say that because you're and this is great for all of you guys who will be further down the road where Lynn is now, who's released a significant amount of weight, is that there does come a time when just seeing yourself in that outfit, as thrilling as it is in the beginning, once you start to live into that and to be closer to your ideal weight. And I do think the last 10 pounds is really, it requires the most of the loving yourself down the scale, because you have to really ask that question of like, why do I need to release these 10 pounds? Like, what's in it for me? How will my life be different? How is that last piece? What will that mean I've become? And so I often think that those visions need to engage who you are being, not as much as you are wearing. You know what? Like a leader, like out in your life being engaged. Do you know what I mean? Like in the court of life, really playing the game. And
Yes, so I found myself over the weekend at a music show, and I was dancing and I felt lighter than air. I felt like my leg, like almost like I was levitating. And that wouldn't have happened before. I would have felt like pain in my legs or this heaviness, or my feet would have hurt. And it was like, wow, it's like I have springs on my legs. So maybe I could picture an activity like that. And I've actually thought of being out there doing my morning walk, which I've come to love inexplicably. Uh, yeah, so maybe it's more active and being engaged in my life.
100%. You know, it's the vision starts often as what would I look like? What would that be like? And then as you start to love yourself more and become more fearless in your life, it's like, who am I being out there? And how does my ideal weight allow me to be more of who I am, interact in the world in the way that I want to interact? And that can open you up to a whole new level of relationship with yourself, but also bring up stuff that, like you said, like dancing or something that just inspires you. And so that I think is a great idea.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Vaughn, are you here? Get very strong cravings for sweets at night. That's something healthy yogurt berries it doesn't satisfy. I've tried having more protein during the day, and that does seem to help. I don't feel like pigging out on the sweets, and a serving will do, but I really have trouble when that craving during well, I hope that today's session helped. I think it's a number of things. I think it's figuring out that protein ratio. I think it's really figuring out, do you maybe want to fast after dinner or have that snack that really does it for you? We're going to get more into the sweets and carbs on Saturday. But I hope today's session has helped you, Yvonne, because I do think that we covered a lot of this stuff today. Are you here? I just want to make sure that you got that answered. I don't know that you are. Okay, I'm going to move on because we have so many questions. So I just want to make sure we do answer these. So I'm using Lose It. Julie, I want to change the height recorded, but I can't figure out how. I was measured this week, and it seems self-defeating to round up a half an inch in hopes my calorie allowance will also be rounded out. Magical thinking dies hard. Okay, so Julie, you can go.
Yes,
Oh, you are here. Okay, cool.
I'm
You
driving, so.
Okay, yeah, and you don't have to turn your video on or anything.
Okay.
You really should be using the shift calculator and not the lose it calculator. If you did you go in and use the shift calculator?
No,
Okay, so it's in the resources section and in pre-shift 2. You want to
okay,
go and put your height, weight, and age in there because lose it's calculator is off anyway. Like it will give you too many calories. Unfortunately, I mean, it might not, it might be if you use ours, at least we know that you're getting the accurate, because all the calorie trackers, they're great in some ways, but they're, what they give you as far as like calorie budget and stuff can be off. So go into
okay,
our calculator, use that. And then there is a tutorial on, and if you can't find it, it is in the resource section as well, on using Lose It and using My Net Diary. And it will show you how to adjust the calories in Lose It to what you get on the calculator.
that's great. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Oh, I went the wrong way. Mara, can you please explain the concept that sometimes we owe the scale and sometimes the scale owes us? Thank you. Okay, sure. Mara, are you here? Okay, good. Vaughn, I'm glad you got that answered. Okay, so Mara, I'm going to go through this quickly, but you probably want to go for a full dive explanation into pre-shift 2 and just review those videos, especially the videos on the scale. But here's the general concept is that if I, like, let's say I set my calorie budget to release a pound this week, and a pound is 3,500 calories. So that means deficiting from my daily body burn 500 calories a day. So like, let's say my daily body burn is 1,800 and I set my calorie budget for weight release at 1,300. And then I get to the end of the week and nothing has happened on the scale, but I know from my tracking that I've burned those 500 calories. That means the scale owes me a pound, right? Because I know I've burned it. The scale just hasn't shown it for whatever reason. It could be water weight issues. Maybe I ate some salt. It could be that for many of us, and this is something you all should know, is that women over the age of 50, the way we release weight isn't the way we used to release weight when we were in our 20s and 30s and early 40s, which is, okay, I stop eating food and the scale drops down and then, it keeps dropping down and it's really, the way we release weight is more, we'll plateau for a while and then we'll drop. And then we'll plateau and we'll drop. And that's why that happy scale app might be helpful for you guys, because you'll see more of a downward trend. But for a lot of us, our body will go plateau, 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 drop, plateau, 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 drop, which can be discouraging unless you know that this is going on. And then you get that drop and then, you'll be happy. But often the scale might owe us because we've deficited the calories, but we just aren't seeing it there yet. Or we might be owing the scale because let's say I am here, I'll just give the Mary example. Mary is deficiting a pound, like 4 pounds a week, and she gets to end of week 1 and she's down 4 pounds. Now she's deficited 3,500 calories, but she's released 4 pounds. Now in Mary's brain, she's like, yay, I've lost 4 pounds. She's really only released 1, right? As per the laws of physics. But what will happen is then week 2, maybe she'll release 2 more pounds. So now she's down 6, but she's really only released 2. And then what will happen, and this happens to many people and why they get so discouraged, is they think, whoa, I've cracked the code. I'm, found the perfect diet. But then week 3, week 4, week 5, the scale plateaus. And Mary's like, what's going on? The scale isn't moving. This diet sucks. My body's broken. And, I'm a failure. And none of that's true. It's just that she owes the scale that weight that was deficited in the beginning. I've had many, many people go through the shift and release 4 pounds in the first week. And then they don't release any more weight. But, and their, weight release expectation was, a pound per week. And they're like, I haven't lost any weight. And I was like, well, how many pounds have you released? So, well, 4. And I was like, and what was your weight release goal? Oh, a pound a week. And how many weeks has it been? 4. Okay. Well, it sounds like you're right on track. But it can be frustrating when you don't understand, does the scale owe me or do I owe the scale? So I hope that's helpful. And like I said, you can go and repeat some of those videos in pre-shift 2.
Hey, Rita.
Yeah.
This is Laura. I have
Yeah.
a visual because you could tell I was a teacher.
Oh, good. I love
About
it.
that
Here,
very
wait a
subject.
minute. Let us see you in a bigger frame. There you go.
Okay. So my visual is I did a line graph when I first started the shift. And you can see the dotted line down the, I hope you can see this. The dotted line
Yeah.
down the middle is sort of where the trend was, but you can see that there were days I went way up above it. And it's like, why? I stuck to my plan. Just be patient. And then it would dive down and then it would dive up. And we all know that this is how it goes. But there's your, the scale owes me. And then
Yeah.
it dips below for a while. I owe the scale back. But darn it, when I started drawing that line, it always ended up right where it's supposed to be at the end. And I think that kept my sanity. So if anybody else is like me and likes visuals, that's another tool you could do for yourself.
Yeah.
That
Good
time.
point, Laura.
It was just fun to do this and to see this journey, and it really calmed my whole system down about that. Just wanted to share.
Oh, I love that. And I definitely used graph paper on my weight release journey in the beginning too. Graph paper is awesome for that because you can just like connect the dots and see what's really going on. And those visual aids are really helpful because many of us are visual oriented, and a lot of this is just about how do I communicate with myself when the scale is saying something that is really defeating feeling. How do we create that conversation, which is like, no, let's have okay, let's just take that moment, look at the facts, and it brings you into takes you from the emotional brain into the rational brain, and you can talk yourself down out of the tree and keep going forward. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Lord. That's brilliant. Okay, Lynn is not going to be here, but she has a question, and I think this question is going to be answered by this week, which is I was going to ask about the 9 skills to weight loss mastery that keep getting mentioned in the coaching sessions. So excited to learn today. We are getting ready to dive into them. The question request that remains: would you review what the difference is between meditation and hypnosis? I recognize meditation seems to set forth an intention and guides you for a successful day. I've yet to make it through a hypnosis session as I keep falling asleep. Yeah. So I think you kind of nailed it yourself, but the meditations are like a relaxed state that is mostly using the tool of future pacing to help you think your day through, engage your subconscious mind, and focus on that feeling of getting to the end of the day, feeling light and aligned with yourself. And it also allows your brain to kind of focus, putting your because all we have, I mentioned earlier, I'm going to Tony Robbins next week, and sometimes I listen to Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins has this recording on focus, and it was very interesting because he said, we all think we're living our life, but the life we live is where we put our focus. So we can either, focus ourselves in a way where we're winning our, like we're feeling good or we're feeling bad, but our weight mastery definitely is where are we putting our focus in for the day, and our self-care, and where are we feeding ourselves and making sure we're taking care of ourselves. So the meditation is very, very important for that. The hypnosis does go deeper. It uses your brain in a different way. We're engaging, shifting ideas of who you are. We are breaking up old beliefs. We're offering, as we're getting into the 9 skills, there's going to be some aversion therapy where it's going to be a little, maybe gross for some of you. And that's intentional because it helps create a different relationship to those ideas put forth. If you don't like the aversion session, you listen to it once and then we do repeat it. Then if that day you listen to it and you're like, oh no, it's that session, go and listen to another session. That's totally fine. But there's lots coming up this week where we are going to be, and if you fall asleep, that's okay. If you don't like falling asleep, I would say there was great coaching in our community yesterday. We were talking about you can sit up, you can do some light stretching, not standing up, but like get on the ground and just stretch your body while you're listening to the hypnosis, because you're doing something that's kind of rote and you don't need to think about it. But you can listen to the session in a more aware and awake way. Or you can listen earlier, as many shifters suggested. So hopefully that helps. Barbara, no. 6 days in and my food chatter has lessened. Thank you. Using my Alexa to get the calorie information. However, I'm not sure how accurate it is. What is the best course for accurate calorie counting? It's highly individual, but I would suggest, I guess I wish you were here, because I guess, are you against using a tracker like an app? And are you just writing stuff down? If you are, you can get a book like Calorie King, which is just a book you can look up calories. Alexa is a great idea. ChatGPT is a great idea. So you can do that. Or you might try one of the tracking apps. And if you need help with that, please, hit reply to one of the daily emails that you get and ask, because that will always get to somebody, me or somebody who helps me, or do Yeah, or ask in the group for help. Okay. Jerry, I'm sorry, Jerry, I don't know. Are you here? Is it true that the app and the desktop do not sync? In other words, if I show complete on my desktop and my phone app will not show complete. So will this be fixed soon? So Jerry, I'm so sorry, but Kajabi, it is not my fault, but Kajabi just doesn't sync the app and the program. So it's a software thing that just hasn't evolved to a point where they sync with each other because they're two different worlds. One is a app that you download on your phone through Apple or Android, and the other is a completely different, I don't know technology enough, as you probably have ascertained, but I don't think those two can sync. So here's what you can do though, and this is for everybody who's annoyed by this, is because I know it can be annoying and I do apologize. I wish they synced and I wish the world was different but go into begin here. This was our best solution. Go into begin here and there is it's called, I will tell you exactly what it's called and how many down, but there's a tracker. There's something you can either print out or you can download it and then use it. And it's a roadmap of the entire program. And it has little check boxes so that you can check each thing that you're doing, whether you're in the program or in the emails or in the app. And if you are reviewing the program, you have to go and uncheck the checks. Kajabi won't let you like reset, but you can use the tracker to just go through the program again. So I'm going to tell you exactly. It's in the begin here section. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down. It's called step-by-step course map and checklist. And you can use that to orient yourself to where you are in the process and check off all the things you've done. And please don't feel like you have to listen to every session or do everything, but it just allows you to know where you are. Okay. And I did, if you guys want to scroll up early, I actually might still have it here. Let me see if I still have it on my clipboard. And I can do that. Yep, there it is, I think. I think that's the tracker there if you want to look at it and print it out. Okay, Dawn, you are going to be here. Dawn, are you still here? Dawn asked, Halloween candy is now in the stores. This is causing me anxiety. I am trying to look at not buying candy as a scientist. I know it is not good for me and will only cause me to crave more sugar. How do I then think to bypass candy this year without feeling depressed and deprived? Okay, that's a good question. I am a candy corn queen, so for many years I, fell prey to candy corn because it is a trigger food. I think it's important, like, to ask yourself about the candy and get curious about the candy. There are going to be candies that you probably just never want to have again because they are trigger candies and you'll just eat the whole bag. And that's candy corn and jelly beans and gummy worms for me. They just I can't eat them. And I'm okay with that because I'd rather be free in my mind than eat candy corn. And I know a lot of those sound really gross when you say it, but anyway, but I think it's important to go okay, where's the part of me that needs the candy, and to have a conversation with it and go, well, can we try on, having a little candy for ourselves. I wouldn't, I wouldn't get a big old bag for trick-or-treaters. I would give them something, like sugar-free gum or something maybe, that you can have around that, or I mean, I don't know, pencils, erase. I mean, kids hate that, but just, I would say if you're a Snickers fan, don't go buy a bag of miniature Snickers, that just would not be helpful. But if you want to try on giving yourself a little thing, and again, we're going to get way into this in Carb Savvy, but to have it after you've eaten some protein at a meal in a protected environment, then it might work out for you. So it's not a matter of doing it or not doing it. It's when and how, and does this really work for me? So those are more the questions you want to say, because you know, there is a part of us that wants to feel deprived, but if we address that part and say, hey, I hear you, you feel deprived. What is it that you feel like we're missing out on? A lot of times it isn't even the candy, it's something that's going on around the candy. You know what I mean? Um, so you want to address that part, but you also want to look at the part that you want to be free. And you want to be mentally free and free from the food noise and all of those things. And those are such more like just so powerful that when you start focusing in that way, it's so much easier to leave all this stuff that triggers you behind. Coaches, you got any? Because that's just one opinion. And I'm sure there's a lot of people here who are curious and hearing how you guys maybe handle Halloween.
I don't
I'm
have any
holding
problems with
off
Halloween
on
myself.
Halloween. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, Deanne. Sorry.
Hi,
I was
Laura.
just noticing some of our friends in the chat that I think is a great idea that they choose to give out candy still, but they're buying candy that they themselves don't like. For example,
Yeah.
buy the sour candy. I'm with this woman. Buy the Tona, I'm all with you. I don't like any other candy other than chocolate. So I can buy the sour candies and know that I'm not even gonna look twice at them. That's just a strategy. But does it address you wanting something for it? Then I'm in agreement totally with Rita that if you can find just a small amount or just something, because really just that one little taste or 3 bites as we use, really just it does satisfy, but it doesn't allow you to get into that ravenous mode.
Yeah, and by the way, I know the Halloween candy is in the store, but by the time Halloween actually comes, you guys are going to be so much more tuned into your bodies and clearer on what trigger foods might be for you, that I think addressing this will, you know, if we were addressing this question 2 weeks from now, it would be so much easier to answer.
Yeah,
So
Rita, I was gonna say that I recognize that just because it's there, I don't have to buy it. I hold off until closer to the holiday because
mm,
if it comes into my house now, I'm gonna have to buy it again and it's gonna cost me more and more money. And this happens at Easter too. They put it out there and it disappears if it's in my house. It just so I walk by those shelves and I say gack, 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 and just keep walking. So hold off till closer to the holiday.
Yeah, that's so great. I like that. Gack, gack, gack. That should be all of our mantra during and it is, isn't it? It's like there's Halloween and then there's Christmas and then there's New Year. Like every other month there is like a candy holiday for the candy manufacturers to make their money off of us falling prey to their half off sales and sugar food, you know, like, yeah. And that's the other thing to be aware of is, you know, when they price it at half price right after the holidays, like you don't need it at half price, people. Really, we don't. Everything is becoming candy holiday. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So all these people who are not here, sorry. My questions are about the directions you give us when you're dictating a meditation. Why is it important to separate hands and feet? Well, you don't have to, but it just allows you to be more open for the suggestions. And that is something I learned in my training, and it doesn't feel as closed off. So, but if you have to do it, okay, you're going to be fine. Why is it important to press the thumb and index finger together? So what that is, that shift breath is an anchoring technique. And so the bringing your thumb and forefinger together is an anchoring, you're anchoring that feeling to that sensation. However, once you get that anchor, once you get that, when you take the breath, that nice feeling is being evoked in you, you don't need to use this all the time. It's just kind of fun to do because it does. You remember I Dream of Jeannie and she used to do this and, you know, blink her eyes and, you know, something. I always feel like the shift breath is like summoning forth, you know, your powerful self, but you don't always have to bring the thumb and forefinger together. I hope that makes sense. All right. Um, did we actually go through all of those questions? Oh my gosh, I thought we had so many more. Okay, cool. So it is 11:09. So we're over the 2 hour mark, but I am open to, I know, and people are heading out. And coaches, if you have to go, you have to go. If there's any burning questions left, we can take a couple, or I can take a couple. Anybody else have anything burning? Are we all burned out? Okay. All right. This meeting is adjourned, you guys. You did amazing. And I can't thank our coaches enough. Deanne, Laura, Lynn, Cherie, and last but not least, oh my gosh, my brain is horrible and awful, but why am I missing our last person who was here with us? Forgive me. I always get that. I get everybody and then I miss, but Deanne, Laura, Cherie, Mary, by contrary, Mary. So there we go. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and I will look forward to seeing you all Saturday. Yay! And thank you, amazing coaches. This is so great. All right. Take care.